It's finally time to compile all the code written in our front-end application for production. This is the terminal, npm's terminal, that I've used with the command npm run serve to run the development server. And as you can see, 1 error and 44 warnings were found. They are not like real errors or very important warnings, to be honest, meaning that they are not critical. The error, as you can see, is an unexpected console statement, and to be fair, at the moment, considering that in fact we are going to production, you could comment out line 174. So basically this catch with console log, or just leave it and make a Google search on how to exclude this kind of errors from showing. However, that's not important at the moment. What really matters is that we can actually compile our application. We can build the production version of our application using npm run build to only get 2 files that we can then use with Django. So to get one JavaScript file where all the JavaScript code that we've written so far in our front-end application will be, and another CSS file where all the styling that we applied will be then be put. So far we've had no CSS files, and that's because the CSS code was passed via JavaScript, and that is in fact part of the whole hot module replacement process. But considering that, again, we are not going to run npm run serve but npm run build, we can go back to the view.config.js file, and here below we can uncomment these lines of code, except of course for the comment up here. And now, if we finally give the command npm run build, let's see what happens. So building for production, and finally everything worked as expected. It has in fact found 3 warnings to make everything in fact a bit more consistent. So if we want, we can actually listen to these messages, because you see here I can change this to this, and same thing up here. And then it's telling us that we can actually also delete one line here, like so. Anyways, what's important is that a new folder has been created, and inside of it we can find bundle.css, bundle.js, which are the 2 files that we really need. So inside of these files, you see, we can now respectively find all the CSS code for the application and all the JavaScript logic. As you can see, everything has been minified to make the application faster. And we can actually ignore this index.html and also bundle.js.map. Vue.js is of course a very important front-end framework that can be used with a lot of different back-end frameworks or even on its own. And so these multiple files can be used in a lot of different situations. But again, we're only going to need these 2 files. So I'm just going to launch the command once again. Let's now think about how we can include these 2 production files, these 2 build files, in our Django application. So let's just close this front-end folder and let's open up core views.py, because here, of course, we are rendering this index.html file. As you might remember, when we've created this index template view class, I told you that in fact we could have just passed this template name attribute to the class, but overwriting the getTemplateNames method would have been really useful later on. And so that moment has arrived. Now, if we open up the index.html file, here we are using Django Webpack Loader to load the JavaScript files that are needed during development. So basically what we can do now is to create another index file to use during production, and then from inside the getTemplateName method, we can check if settings.debug, which is a very important property defined here, very important setting for the application, as you surely know. So if debug is set to true, That means that we're developing. So the file that has to be used is this index.html file, the one created for development purposes. Otherwise, if the bug is set to false, we can use the production template. So instead of creating two files, here we can simply rename this file to index.dev.html. Going to copy this code in a new index.html file, which is going to be the production file. And so here, of course, things are going to be different. First of all, we don't need the webpack loader tags. Not here, nor here. We can here remove the spaces a bit like so. Here instead, we need to load static. And here we can add two more blocks. So first of all, block style and block, and here below block JS. So here inside I can add link with href static bundle.css, and here below instead script with src. That's going to copy this code, which actually has to be completed this way, and this is going to be bundle.js. Base.html has to be updated as well, because it's the parent template. We already have block style that we are using with the auth layout, you see. And so here below we can simply add block.js. Like so. So here, going back to views.py, first of all, let's import settings. So from django.conf, import settings, and actually let's move this up. So 1, 2, here, and here now we can check if settings.debug. In that case, template name has to be index.dev.html. Otherwise, template name equals index.html. Now, if we open up question time settings.py once again, and we check static here below, we see that we have static URL, but no static files there's, or rather static files there. So let's define this variable, and here I have a ready to use static files there's variable that we can just paste here, like so. As you can see, I've also added an assets folder in case you might want to personalize your application even further, or maybe just move the CSS code to a dedicated file. But most importantly, front-end dist. And remember, of course, that during deployment, when moving your application to production, you might also want to have a static root to a folder where you want all your static resources to be placed with the collect static command. But I'm just going to comment it out for now. And I can actually also add a comment. But now everything basically is set. We are almost ready to give all of this a try. Just remember one thing. When settings.debug is false, Django will no longer serve your static files. And that's because, of course, during production, you want to use something way more efficient, such as, for example, Nginx. So just for now, to check if everything works as expected, I'm adding a not here. And of course, remember to remove this not before deploying your application. Now, by only using Django's development server that I can restart, our application will work perfectly using the files created here for production. So let's move to Chrome and let's make another GET request. As you can see, everything is working as expected. We can load more files, we can create new questions, and if we check the source code of the page, we see that we now have bundle.js and bundle.css. Here they are. So let's create a new question. Are we in production mode? Publish. Home. Here it is. Answer. Yes. Finally. Okay developers, that was it for this last lesson on how to set your single page application for production. Now you just have to deploy your Django application the way you would normally do, using Heroku or DigitalOcean for example. And by moving these two production files, you will be able to finally share your work with the world. Before we finish, however, there is one last thing that I want to tell you. See you in the next video.